Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the KSL.com Game Center podcast. It is Tuesday, April 4th. That's right, we're in a new month, new episode, and we're here with Ryan Miller to talk a little Jazz towards the end of the season. Last time we were chatting, the Jazz had about 10 games left on their schedule. 6 of those games are gone. We got 4 left, and we've made it. We're in the final week of the season. How are we feeling, Ryan?
It is potentially elimination day for the Utah Jazz.
Ooh.
If they lose tonight and Oklahoma City and Minnesota both win, the Jazz play-in hopes are officially over. And that's actually semi-likely. I don't know, like semi-likely,
Yeah.
but those three things aren't like out of the realm of possibility. So, yeah, I do think they'll probably survive tonight. I'm not, but yeah, it's an interesting little subplot here that we thought this would go down to the last week. I'm not sure if it'll go down to the last days, but yeah, we're at the end of the run here. So, last chance to watch these wonderful 2022-23 Jazz is upon us.
Truly, truly, and it's not quite the same group that we started the season with. Had some changes along the way, and even this week had some changes as well. As announced yesterday, that Walker Kessler might not be able to play in these final games after going out in concussion protocol after the last game, unfortunately.
Yeah, so kind of an interesting play there where two guys going for a rebound and Taylor Horton Tucker just slams in to his face. So a little bit of friendly fire there. But yeah, just with concussion protocols, like this isn't serious by any means. It's a concussion. Like
Yeah.
you could definitely tell he was woozy and like he got clocked, that's for sure. But just with the NBA concussion protocols, it averages about 7 to 10 days. And so just do the math. The season ends on Sunday. So yeah, this is gonna end the regular season. It's like I know a lot, like it's like, oh yeah, likely ending his season, but it's like if they do make the play-in potentially, and if they obviously make the playoffs, like it's not like it's gonna keep him out of a first round playoff series. But yeah, gotta get there first. And but if they go out in the regular season as many are expecting, and they're probably expecting at this point, then yeah, he's done. And it's kind of a sad way to end it. Well, sad's probably not the right word, but kind of a lackluster way of ending his great rookie season. This guy came in as a throwaway player, in a trade mostly. Like, I really think Minnesota could have drafted anybody in that first round and it would not have impacted that trade. It was just he was the first rounder. We're gonna get him. That didn't mean that Jazz didn't like him, but just that was kind of the case. And he came in almost as a throwaway and really cemented himself as probably the second, if not third best player on this team by the season's end. And that's crazy. Like you can look at him and be like, yes, this guy is a dude that you can build a defense around. He's a guy, and but he's more than that. Like it's like, okay, he's got some offensive touch. He's got a good feel for the game, especially as a rookie. It's just you don't see that a lot where a rookie can really impact winning, and he did impact winning probably more than anyone on the Jazz outside Lauri Markkanen. So yeah, a really good rookie season. Ends on a bit of a whimper, but yeah, I think if anything, it's like cool. The Jazz have found someone in Walker Kessler that they can build on moving forward.
Yeah, and I think as you rightly mentioned, sure, if they were to make the playoffs, he could potentially come back. That's not looking likely. Since we last spoke, the Jazz have not won many games. In fact, they've only won one game since we last spoke. One out of their last 6. However, they're coming home, and their next 3 games are at home. You mentioned, well, tonight they're playing the Lakers. For those who don't know,
Yep.
as you mentioned, a potential elimination night for the Jazz.
All right, I just looked it up. So Oklahoma City's at Golden State, and Milwaukee and Minnesota is at Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those 3 things all breaking wrong for Utah is probably not super likely. Think they survive tonight,
Yeah.
but But yeah, if they win against the Lakers and Oklahoma City loses, suddenly this thing opens up again because you have
Because
that
then the Jazz play the Thunder.
they play they play the Thunder on Thursday, and then like suddenly that's looking like oh my gosh, this is a potential like playing game for the play.
Yeah,
Now it's so weird because it's like clearly the Jazz want to make it, or at least the team, the coaches do,
yeah.
because suddenly Colin Sexton's
Mm,
been upgraded to questionable for tonight. And I will find out more this morning when we head to shoot around. But like there's really no reason for this to happen. I know Colin wants to play. He has been like eager, get me out there, but it's like the Jazz want to be safe. They know all the studies. They say, hey, if you can survive your knee injury for an entire season, you'll be good pretty much for the rest of your career. That's the goal here. Hamstring injury on the same leg that he had knee surgery on is like, okay, let's take this a little more cautious route. I I don't know if there's something in his contract, some incentive wise that he gets some money if he plays some odd games or something, but like it just seems weird to me to bring him back with 4 days left if you're not actually gunning for the playoffs. And now with like Walker Kessler out, you're like Lowry Markkanen's been in and out of the lineup. Like I've never really been on the like tank mode thing, and I think we'll talk about this later, mostly because I just don't think this draft is that good outside the number one pick.
mm.
And well, number two, I'll give Scutus to do, but like, but and so I've never really cared about the whole tanking thing. But at this point, it's like, all right, guys, there's no reason to go. Like, yes, do I find a huge difference between the number 8 pick and the number 12th? Not really. But like at some point that'll help you with trades if you do want to move up. So I don't know. It's funny, it's interesting, but we've had this little yin yang all season where the organization wants to lose games, the team doesn't. Some fans want to lose games, some fans want to get to the playoffs. It's an interesting little thing, and so we'll see how it all shakes out. Uh, I'm excited to see Colin Sexton back. Like I've always enjoyed. I thought he looked good the first week that he had as a starting point guard. It changed the way the Jazz played. They were super high tempo. Everything was a drive to the lane, and now that did continue after he left, and it was probably more of a indication that Mike Conley wasn't in the lineup than Colin Sexton was. But I want to see if that does increase again with him back. Like, so there's some interesting things. I want to see what the Jazz look like with Colin Sexton. And maybe in the end, that's why they want him to play, because they didn't really get a good look. And in the end, this season has been about like, what do we need going forward? Like, yes, we have Lowry Markkanen and we have Walker Kessler. Now, what else do we need to build around those guys to actually make this a contending team? Will that happen next year? Probably not, but like that's kind of what they're look. They want to just get a lot of looks at guys. They got a good look at Taylor Horton Tucker, what he can do. But they haven't really gotten a chance to see what Colin Sexton looks like as the starting point guard. Maybe that's a sign of like, okay, 4 games, maybe that gives us enough information to use in the summer of what we really need to do for the point guard spot. I don't know. We'll see. It seems weird to me, though, all in all, that he would be coming back the last week of the season, but he does want to. So at some point, you just let the players do what they want if they're healthy.
No, for sure. And Sexton's in a bit of a unique position there because the Jazz have already committed to him a little bit, offering him that extension as soon as he was traded here in the offseason. So it seems like, whether he's the starting point guard of the future, that's yet to
Yeah, and
be
I think
seen.
yeah, I think that's it, because it's like, oh yes, he's locked up, but
Yeah,
I think there's part of the organization that just sees him as a sixth man,
yeah,
and so like could he be a potential starting point guard? The problem is really if you look at the point guard market, there's not a lot of guys. Like the
right.
Jazz will go into this free agency period with a lot of cap room, but like outside of Kyrie Irving and Fred Van Vliet, there's really not a lot of like point guards that you could go after that are free agents. I don't see a fit with the Jazz and Kyrie. And this is me saying I don't want to cover Kyrie Irving all full time, so please don't do that. And then Red Van Fleet, we've talked about this a lot as beat writers. I don't know if he's worth the price that he's gonna demand a little bit. So, but I don't know. It's not my money, so I don't care if I think he's great. So it's like if the Jazz can bring him in, I think that would help. But yeah, like with the market not being this robust point guard market, like I think you probably do want to give a like see what Colin Sexton has, and if he is your guy that can be a top 20-ish point guard, then yeah, it's probably good enough in this league. Like everyone has a solid point guard, so it's not like those guys are usually the ones that are determining championships or not outside of one Steph Curry. So I think you can survive with that. But yeah, which also brings us to the draft. There's plenty of point guards in the draft the Jazz could also look at. So again, getting a look at Colin Sexton maybe is in the next 4 games might be an indication that they just want some more info for him, or maybe the doctor said it would be good to see his recovery in a live game situation. We'll see a little bit more. I'll find out a lot more in an hour. Let's say that.
There we go. Stay tuned, everybody. Yeah, no, I definitely do want to touch on the draft a little bit. The Jazz found their starting center of the future in last year's draft, a great wing in Ochai Agbaji. You mentioned there's some decent point guard options. Who are some of those guys maybe that you've been looking like? We just finished up March Madness last night. There were certainly some guys in that tournament that will be looked at in the draft. As of right now, the Jazz, as far as what their picks are looking like, I know things can change quite a bit, and then the lottery will obviously influence things a little bit. But as far as the order right now, Jazz are looking at number 9, and then that Minnesota pick at number 13. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that 8 to 12 range, because that's right where the Jazz are kind of going to be
Yeah.
sitting, is that late lottery.
Yeah, Minnesota's helping them out lately. They have been like Jazz have been losing a lot of games, but so is Minnesota. They're on a 3-game losing streak. May make it 4 tonight. Like that's looking likely, more and more likely. Like it potentially could be a lottery pick. Now Minnesota, we'll talk to about the draft guys, but Minnesota, like I think they'll do well in a play-in situation. Like you look at the other teams around them and they're more veteran, they've got guys that have experience. I think they will do well in a play-in tournament. So if they sneak into that, which they probably will, I would expect them to get to the playoffs. But if they don't, Jazz have another lottery pick on their hands. And regardless, that record is that record. And so it'll be a mid-range first round pick at this point. The Jazz is probably in the 8, 9, 10 range, probably 9, 10. But yeah, as mentioned previous, I know there's a lot of people that have been hyping up this draft for a year. And I think a lot of that hype came last summer. As soon as these guys, actually these high school kids everyone was excited about, started playing games, the excitement dropped. And there are some people that refuse to give up that hype, but I just don't know if this is that good of a draft all around. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to be successful, all-stars even, that are late picks, like always happens. The thought of like you can get a like surefire starter in the 20s, I think is insane. And that's what people were saying last summer. And some people still continue to say. Now, guys, I do like the world's got to see him. I've loved Jordan Hawkins the entire season.
Yeah.
Like loved it. I can just see like the guys I like in the draft are ones you can just visualize so easily in the NBA level. This is this guy. Like first game I saw, like I just started watching UConn in November. First time I saw him come off a double screen, roll out off of roll off a double screen, catch the ball, and fire all in one motion. Hey, that's an NBA skill. It looks like Kyle Korver. He just runs all the dang time. He can hit spot ups. He can hit off the move. He can hit pull ups. Like he can shoot. He can like the one of the biggest NBA skills in this today's NBA is just being able to shoot at a high volume. Like he can generate offense. And to like you going back to the Kyle Korver comparison, Kyle didn't really have much of a like any other game except for shooting. Jordan does. Like he's an improving ball handler. Now he's super thin. He's going to get pushed off of his advantages all the time in the NBA if he doesn't bulk up. But he's a shooter on this. So yeah, he leads UConn to a national title, and so his stock's going to go up. He was sitting in the mid-20s most of the year, and I was just like, man, if he's there for the if they Jazz can get him with the Sixers pick or the Nets pick or whatever the heck pick you want to call it, that late first rounder, that would have been like ideal. Now you're probably looking they might have to spend their own lottery pick on him, which I understand, Jazz fans. That's an underwhelming pick. This guy's I don't think Jordan Hawkins is a superstar. Like I don't think he's gonna be a top like 5 shooting guard in the league. He's just gonna be really good. And so but I again with this draft there, I think you want to swing with the fences with a lottery pick, and there you have those guys like the Thompson twins, for example, are like the swing for the fences guys. But to me, it is really hard to visualize an all NBA player at this point who can't shoot. And
Hmm.
these kids just can't shoot right now. Now it's right now. I hate the competition they're playing against. Like this is like high school level stuff that they've been playing against, and so it's just hard. You just kind of have to see it all at face value. Like, okay, they are uber athletic. There doesn't matter what league they get put in, they will be top tier athletes. Uh, and so and they've got a lot of stuff, a good feel for the game, good passing ability, like both of them. I know Amen is more of the point guard, but like both of them could be point guards in the league, and that might be their best option, kind of like a like more athletic version of a Taylor Horton Tucker almost. um and so yeah, but the shooting, if they can't shoot, it's gonna be hard for them to be starter. Like it's hard to play in the league today if you can't shoot the ball. Like it really, really is. But they have their special other places, so that gives them hope. Yeah. So if you want to take a swing for the fences, those are the guys that might be there. Where the Jazz are drafting now. If you get the number 1 and number 2 pick, heck yeah, take Victor, take Scoot, and let's call it a success.
Wemby.
Like yeah, like that. Like honestly, those are the most obvious things. I know Brandon Miller has gotten some push for the number 2 pick. Which yeah, like a big wing that can shoot 40% from three. Yeah, I know he shot awfully in the tournament. He's got the whole shooting thing that happened
Extra
that which
extracurriculars.
yeah, and I like honestly I like looking at that more and more. I think that was Alabama's PR department just putting a target on his back unnecessarily. Like I think if they would have addressed that immediately, been like, hey, Brandon Miller was at the scene, this is what we know, we are going to give him a week off to figure this stuff out, and this they hit it, and then people found out, and when you hide something it just looks worse than it might have been.
Yeah.
Because like everything I've read, all the stuff, it just shows that he drove a car with a gun in it, he was picking up a friend, he like that's essentially what he did. I now there could be more, but I don't know if that really means he's this bad kid that puts himself in these bad situations. It happen, and so we'll see. Obviously, he'll be like grilled to high heaven about this stuff during the combine and all the draft interviews. Um, but yeah, on the court, 40% shooter from three, 6'9", does a lot, pretty good athlete, like has good feel for the game. Those are the type of wings you want to take a swing at. And so, yes, any of the top three, I like there's a lot of reasons to be excited about. That's where I feel like it kind of just like not necessarily drops off a cliff, but it's like, no, you're taking risks. The Thompson twins to me are risks.
Yeah.
You're like so yeah. So, but like a guy like Cason Wallace from Kentucky point guard. We want to talk about point guards again. I like him a lot. Like really gritty defender. Shot poorly at the end, but like was above 40% 3-point shooter for most of the season. Dealt with injuries too that might have helped or might have hurt there as well, and just never was really used right at Kentucky like so many Kentucky point guards in the past have been. Like There's so many examples. The most recent ones with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously, and then Tyrese Maxey, um, just guys that weren't these high picks and then turned out to be legit studs in the league. So could he follow that track? Yeah, probably. And then another one that I know Jazz fans will not like. I really like Grady Dick.
Yeah.
Like I do. I see a lot of like Clay Thompson light stuff
Mm.
with him. Uh,
I mean,
to,
speaking of shooting, he's the best shooter in the draft. So
I think Jordan Hawkins is better, but
yeah,
but no,
okay, touche.
both both of them you can make an argument for both of them. Like
Yeah.
yes, and so again, that's what I mean when I look at him and I just see a place for him immediately, and he's tall, he's taller than Hawkins, and so he's going to be able to get his shot off more places. Um, if everything breaks right for the guy, uh like you're looking at an offensive guy like a Clay Thompson, light, like he's a little shorter, and I'm not expecting him to ever be that kind of production, but like that's the kind of guy he reminds you of. Now defensively, he's nothing like Clay. He's a decent team defender, kind of understands schemes, but yeah, he's gonna have to get better off like point of attack stuff to really shine there. But like yeah, I think I see those guys being like guys you can just plug in day one and they have a spot. And I don't know if that's what you want or do you want a project, but yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, it's to me this draft has been kind of overhyped. Like going to point guards, like Anthony Black is probably
Mm,
outside of Scoot, your number 2 point guard prospect.
yeah.
And like I just don't like him that much. Like I like his defensive tenacity is good. It goes back to he has great size for the position. He's smart. I like a lot of things, but then he's not the most athletic guy, and he can't shoot. Like the dream would be a taller version of Mike Conley without the jump shot,
Mm.
maybe. Like that's like your dream scenario of what he becomes. Uh yeah, I don't know. Like that's just like but I like you take all those things, you take Mike Conley's ability to score out and it's like, well, yeah, he's a role player. A second rotation role player guy. Like and so I don't think Anthony Black has nearly the like that all the intangibles that Mike Conley does. So yeah, going away from that comparison right now, but like but yeah, like again, you kind of find the same thing down the line with all the point guards like Jalen Hood, Shafino.
Yeah.
I lucked in. I saw his like 35-point explosion, like the first game I watched. I'm like, man, this guy is good. And I looked it up, and he was like at that point an early second round prospect. And I'm like, man, why is everyone like sleeping on this dude? And then I watched him more. It's like, okay, that was an anomaly. He's not a great shooter. He can do. He's really a lot like Anthony Black. Can run the offense pretty well. Is like does a lot of those same things that you like, but then he struggles shooting the ball. And obviously, in the NBA, it's going to be different. You're going to have more spacing, and so like you have a lot of these like things that could go differently for these players, but yeah, like I'm just not in love with it. Maybe I've watched too many of these prospects and saw too many of their bad games that I'm just like I'm kind of jaded toward. Like I guess I've just gone sick of the narrative that this is like this all time draft. It's like no, you have an all time prospect and probably an all time number 2 pick. Like when you look like versus number 2 prospects. After that, I think it's like really just kind of standard mill, or you're going to be taking swings and hopefully something hits. Like, could I see a scenario where like Nick Smith Jr.
Hmm.
pops? Sure, but I wouldn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. I hate everything that the way he plays. Like, I hate it. Like, I hate that kind of player. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm not huge on this draft. I guess I'm huge on some players. Like, I really do. Like Jordan Hawkins, love Grady Dick, love probably more than I should.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there and Case and Wallace, I really think has a chance of being really, really good. So like those are my 3 favorites, like where the Jazz are drafting. I should note that I have a terrible track record of guys I really fall in love with. So the Jazz would probably just stay clear of these guys. But maybe I'm smarter than I was 5 years ago. So like, uh, but yeah, it is. The draft is fun. There'll be gems. There'll be guys you didn't think would pop, like Walker Kessler. Exactly. Like it happens every year. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
and so yeah, it is a draft. I like for the Jazz fans that are just holding out hope this will turn the franchise around. If it's not the number one pick, I just don't see that happening. And I'm like, trade all the picks, trade them all at that point. Like,
Yeah,
go,
I mean
go.
the Jazz have so much capital that there's the it's kind of the world is in their hands. Like they kind of they can control their own future in so many different ways, and these next few months, this summer could go a lot of different ways
And,
how much flexibility they have.
well, and I think that's what's interesting is like because like if you look at the way the Jazz have always grown a team, it's always been through the draft. Like they got Karl Malone and John Stockton in the draft. They got Darren Williams in the draft. Yeah, they signed Carlos Boozer and they traded for I might have just signed Bamba Okur. I can't remember at this point, but yeah, I think they just signed him. So they like yes, they got those two guys on free agency, but like Darren Williams was a draft guy, Donovan Mitchell was a draft guy, Gordon Hayward was a draft guy, like Rudy Gobert. Like these are all guys they got from the draft. Most of their big stars of all time were guys in the draft. I think the Jazz fans have to kind of just switch their thinking of team building right now because like the Jazz were legitimately going to go after Kevin Durant this summer if he was still on Brooklyn and was asking for a trade again. Like legitimate. That wasn't a dream scenario. This was like, oh no, we can outbid anybody. And so that was going to happen. Now, it was not going to now. He's in Phoenix, seems supposedly happy. Everything's fine now with OKD. But like that's what you're going to look for. The stars that become available, they will go after. Like Justin Zanuck has said it on record multiple times where it's like we can make the KD trade 3 times. Maybe 4 if the right scenario comes to mind, like comes out that we have more players that we can give up. But like that's like that is the way this team is going to be built. Now, yes, they are going to use the draft. They are probably at least going to use 2 of these picks to pick players. And like I think the exciting part of this draft, I know I just killed it. I when I say I don't like the all like the superstar potential of this thing. I just don't see there many like, oh, this guy's a perennial all-star, this guy's a perennial all-star. I think there's a lot of good rotation players in this thing. Like that's where I see like a Jordan Hawkins. Like, no, I don't think he's going to be your stud at the 5, but like a guy that can shoot that well is going to be awesome to have on your team. Same with Grady Dick. Like that's great to have. And so, no, those guys are the nice filler. Like you can use these guys, get your rotation guys. As we've seen the last 2 weeks, the Jazz are not the deepest of teams. You have a few injuries, which was by design. They freaking torpedoed their whole starting roster at the beginning of the season and in the middle of the season. So, but like you get a couple of these young guys that can fill out the roster, and then you go and make this huge trade, and suddenly you're ready to go right then. And so I think that is the plan. Now, who will be available? They don't know. Like they'll say that like pretty openly, where it'd be like, who would have thought KD was going to be on the Suns right now? And it's true. No one would have thought that at the beginning of last season. So who knows? Maybe the Jazz will be the ones with I don't know Giannis Antetokounmpo to next year because that he became available, or Nikola Jokic was like, I want out, or Luka Doncic wants out, and the Jazz suddenly get like there's like you just don't know. And so that is why but that is kind of the plan team building. And I know the jokes of like, well, didn't Danny Ainge try to do this 1,000 times in Boston and never pulled the trigger? Yeah, he also got top 3 picks every year, so it didn't really matter. But so if the Jazz aren't getting a top 3 pick, which they still might, lottery odds are hopeful, then yeah, I think you're gonna look at you're gonna get your superstars uh in trades. And I think that's an exciting thing for the Jazz because it's like they've never really been in any of those conversations, and they will be in every one of those conversations going forward.
Yes, yes, certainly a lot to look forward to, not only over this next week, but over the next month or so. As you mentioned tonight, and these next couple of games, big and deciding how long this Jazz season goes for, and then where, of course, they will end up in this draft order. I know you've got to get to shoot around ahead
Actually,
of
I want to
yeah,
ask you something,
yeah,
Caleb,
please do.
as our resident Spurs fan. Would you rather be where you are or fighting for a playing spot?
Oh, yeah. Well, so the Spurs have, as of right now, the best odds at the number one pick. So, I would take those odds.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Jazz fans wish Jazz would have done that too. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I think the season's been fun, and a lot of I hope fans have embraced it as much as they should have, because like Lowry Markkinen is a stud, and no one knew that before the year. And he's a guy that you'll be able to pair with literally any star, and it'll fit perfectly. Like I know he's gotten a lot of I guess I don't know, criticism's the right word, but criticism for the lack of a better word, about like how he's not like the guy that can take the ball and just say, okay, I'm gonna go ISO here and create a shot. But it's like how many of those guys do you really need? like you're seeing it in Dallas. Like, okay, cool. Kyrie is gonna take over the last 3 minutes and Luka is gonna sit there. Like, do you really want Luka just sitting there? Like that, it's like with Lowry, he's not just sitting there. He's going to be moving. He's going to be doing things. He's going to get 30 points without ever running a play for him. Like, I think that's a wonderful start to trying to find a perfect pair. And so I guess that what I'm saying is I think the guy like Lowry is harder to find, like the guy like every other team has who can just kind of take over, like a Donovan Mitchell or anything. I think the secondary star that doesn't need the ball is more of a rare feat at this point in the league than it's not. The Jazz already have one. Just gotta find that other guy, which probably will be difficult. And Victor would be great, and they should also win the lottery because that would be awesome to cover.
Yes. Well, thanks for bringing up Lowry though. I did want to end it up. I wanted to end on him. I noticed yesterday this tweet, this graphic came out that said he was the first NBA player in NBA first player in history to make 200 over 200 threes and have over 100 dunks in a season.
Like,
Which is a very interesting stat, but very cool.
yeah, and why is he playing right now? Is I think he wants all NBA. When there,
Yeah.
by that I mean I know he wants all NBA. It's actually pretty funny. So I think 2 weeks ago we asked him about this at a press conference. Like, hey, do you care about this stuff? And he starts off with this like cookie cutter response of like, oh, like, yeah, it would be a pretty cool thing to get the acknowledgement, but I just care about winning and every day, blah, 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 boring stuff. And then he kind of just pauses and he's like, I don't even know who makes the decision on that. Is it you guys? And then like when he gets like the collective nods, suddenly like switches into like campaign mode. I'm like, oh no, it would mean a lot. Like it would be huge. Like please vote for me. Like, and then like he found out who had the vote, which is our good friend at the Salt Lake Tribune, Andy Larson. Like how it works is like we all rotate. They'll all ask like one person per market to do it, and we just rotate the year. And so it's Andy this year, and like he has been so jovial to Andy ever since. He's like, "Hey, my man over there." Like, so like jokes aside, like he wants it. Like this does mean a lot, not just for like contract wise and all that. It just like it is a recognition that you belong in the top tier of the league, and and I think it's a like it's pretty surefire at this point that I think he'll be all NBA. Just with the injuries to some guys, the games missed and whatnot. And really his production is, as you mentioned, 200 threes, 100 dunks. That's crazy. Um, and so, yeah, I think he will at least get third team. I think you could make an argument for second team pretty compellingly. Outside of Giannis and Jason Tatum, I think it's like he could be the third best forward in the league this season, or at least the third best season from the forwards. And so, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet to say he'll make the All NBA team. Most improved player, I think, will come down to him and Shea. Kind of depends on semantics at that point. What you consider like improved is like Like some people think Gilgeous Alexander made more of a leap because he had already had this opportunity. Markkinen had never had this opportunity before, really. And so is he always this good? So yeah, I think like that'll come down to like voter preference and semantics more than anything. But no, definitely worthy of that as well. But yeah, so I think he'll have some. He'll definitely be in the award circuit for sure, and then and rightfully so. As I said, man, guy's awesome. Like it's just not a lot of guys you could don't have to run any plays for, and he can is a threat to still put up 30 or even 40 a night. So it's pretty special player. Shoot the heck out of the ball, can do a lot of other things, and really tall and really cares. Like he's a perfect piece to go along with a just a super heavy isolation guy or really any other type of superstar you want. Like you put Markkinen next to Jokic or Giannis, like he's going to be just as effective and awesome as he is now, and that's what makes him so special, and why he's such a good piece to have on a team that's really looking to build this thing into like a bona fide contender.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the odds down from our friends in Vegas, he's the prohibitive favorite right now to win Most Improved Player minus 400,
Oh,
and
what's Shea at?
plus 275.
Okay, well, yeah,
So
I've just talked to some voters, and that's the argument is everyone's facing. It's like, well, like Cachet is like if the Thunder were better, like and not even that much better. We're talking like maybe 6 more wins. He would be legit in the MVP like race.
yeah,
Like probably not at the point of like actually challenging Jokic or Embiid or anyone else, but like he would be like number 4, like outside of your main three, and he's been unreal this season, and so so no, but like again, it just comes back to like, well, did he actually improve? More opportunity, whatever. But like, yeah, Lowry makes sense to me too. Like, what like a guy that really you saw as a throw-in to a trade? Like, yeah, good player. You had to get someone back, obviously, but like, I don't think when the Donovan Mitchell trade broke, we were like, well, what is Lowry marketing going to mean for the Jazz? Like, no, like you just weren't doing that. The fact is, he popped kind of out of nowhere. Obviously, former lottery pick, but you know, been third team in 3 years, been a role player. Uh, yeah, you just did not expect this type of production from him at all, it and for the most part, it came in competitive games on a team that was trying to win. That is still alive for the postseason. Like, no, it totally makes sense to award that season. And yeah, I I'd be totally fine if he got most improved player. I think that's more than deserving.
yep, and we get one last showdown between those two, between SGA and Lowry on
You,
Thursday, so that'll be fun. So these next two games, tonight against the Lakers and then Thursday at home against the Thunder, a couple big home games, last few chances for Jazz fans to come out and check out this team at home.
yeah, and if they win tonight, like say they win tonight, the Thunder lose. Suddenly they have a bit of like they can control their own destiny, and they've gotten through their murderers row. Like that late March run was like, oh my gosh, this thing is going to kill them, and it did. They lost 6 of the last 7, and they snuck in a couple surprise wins in there to save it a little bit. But yeah, they're out of it. Like they got 2 games against the Lakers, once against the Thunder, and one against the Nuggets team that probably won't be trying. So I say this knowing the Jazz have not won more than 2 in a row, I think, since November.
Ooh,
But you could see them winning out, like at least taking them by game. It's like, okay, yeah, like game by game, they could win. They could win all 4 of those. But yeah, their last more than 2 game winning streak was no early November. It was during that 10-3 start. Other than that, they've only won 2 in a row the whole year. So is it an uphill climb? Sure. Is it one they even want to make? I'm not sure, but I guess it's still possible. Go play it.
exactly. All right. Well, I will let you get to shoot around. Make sure you guys are checking out everything that Ryan's putting up on KSL.com and